Hi everyone, thanks for coming back for part 3. In my last video, I had just finished going over this table right here on the Feast of Weeks that was coming up in Daniel 9:23 through 9:26, and I was just pointing out how both of these tables actually, I didn't realize it until after I had finished the last video, that they both have the date June 7th in them. And the one I just did over here, you see the word June coming at an angle, the letters J, U, and E, and right by the J here, you see the number 7. So this one seems to have the date June 7th in it, and the one that I had done before also had the word June over here in the blue, the letters J, U, and E, and over here it had the 7th that was created by an abacus effect. So they both have the date June 7th in them, and this other one was coming up in Jeremiah 13, which was talking about the abominations, and then this one is coming up in Daniel 9:23 through 26, which also talks about the abominations of desolation, and they both seem to have June 7 in them. And I'm not trying to set any dates or anything. I'm just showing that that date comes up. I'm not sure what it means, but it's in there. It's in both of these tables. And June 7th also happens to be the date that Jerusalem was retaken. The city of Jerusalem was retaken, and it's been 49 years. And on June 7th, that'll complete 50 years. So that will be the beginning of the Jubilee since the date that Jerusalem was retaken as a capital. So that seems to be lining up at the same time that Pentecost, which is a Feast of Weeks, lines up to June 12th. But like I said, the Feast of Weeks comes up just 1 week prior to that, and then just 1 week after that would be Shavuot. So they both seem to be lining up within a week of each other. At the same time, you have the Jubilee. You also have the countdown to Pentecost. So you have two countdowns lining up at the same time. And this is something that Renee Moses had talked about in one of her videos, and she had called that a fractal, which is like the imagery. When I had pulled up the images of fractals, it showed some images where it had triangles, and it had like a big triangle with a small triangle inside of it. That would be like one example of a fractal. So it seems to be an interesting time that's coming up. Things seem to be lining up for Pentecost. Of course, I'm not trying to set any dates or anything. I'm just pointing out the tables and what seems to be lining up. And I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next table. I had some more terms in this one, but like I said, the terms are not that important. It's the matrix that's the most important thing. And in this one, I tried to put an alternative term for Pentecost to just reinforce the fact that it's referring to Pentecost. So I put in 2 loaves, and then Pentecost, and rapture, and wrapped. So I'll just pull up the second one over here. And this one came up in Ezekiel 20. And let me make sure the first one comes up in the same one. Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Okay, so it's coming up in Ezekiel 20. And as you can see, it reads at the top, 2 loaves, Pentecost, rapture, wrapped. And you see the word Pente coming up here in the lavender, the letters P, E, N, T, E, and then cost comes up here in the bluish purple with the letters C, O, S, T, and again, that's very close proximity, so it's very likely that those terms were intended to go together. And then over here, you have in the pink, you have the word loaves, which is what's presented on Pentecost. The two loaves are presented as a wave offering, and it's crossing right through the word Pente over here. You see it in the pink with the letters L, O, A, V, E, S. And then you have the word two is coming up here in the red with the letters T, W, O. And over here you have the first part of the word rapture in the blue, the letters R, A, P. And then you have the second part of the word rapture down here in the green with the letters T, U, R, E. And over here in the yellow you have the word wrapped with the letters R, A, P, T. And I believe that's all the terms in that one. And so I'm just going to skip over these others. And I have another table on Pentecost, and in this one I had put in the words. Well, actually, I forgot to read the matrix in the one I was at, so let me read the matrix first in this one quickly, and let's see what it says. And the word of Jehovah came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face toward the south, and drop thy word toward the south, and prophesy against the forest in the field of the south. And say to the forest of the south, Hear the word of Jehovah. Thus saith the Lord Jehovah, Behold, I will kindle a fire in thee, and it shall devour every green tree in thee, and every dry tree, and flaming flame shall not be quenched. And all faces from the south to the north shall be burnt thereby. And all flesh that I see, and all flesh shall see that I, Jehovah, have kindled it, it shall not be quenched. Then said I, Ah, Lord Jehovah, they say of me, Is he not a speaker of parables? And the word of Jehovah came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face toward Jerusalem, and drop thy word toward the sanctuaries, and prophesy against the land of Israel. And say to the land of Israel, Thus saith Jehovah, Behold, I am against thee, and I will draw forth my sword out of its sheath, and will cut off from thee the righteous and the wicked. Seeing then that I will cut off from thee the righteous and the wicked, therefore shall my sword go forth out of its sheath against all flesh from the south to the north, and all flesh shall know that I, Jehovah, have drawn forth my sword out of its sheath, and it shall not return any more. Sigh therefore, Son of man, with the breaking of thy loins, and with bitterness shalt thou sigh before their eyes. So this definitely sounds like the day of reckoning, the day of judgment, when the Lord returns. And like I said, I'll go on to the next table, which I had tried to put in the words arch and angel and Pentecost, because the Bible talks about the day when the archangel Michael will stand, so the same at the time that Satan is cast out of heaven. So I just thought I would put that in as a defining point for Pentecost and see if it would come up. And it came up in this table. You see the second part of Pentecost here in the bluish purple. You see the word angel here in the pink with the letters A, N, G, E, L. You see the first part of the word Pentecost in the lavender with the letters P, E, N, T, E. And then you see the word arch over here in the red, the letters A, R, C, H. And this comes up in Numbers 11, which I thought was really interesting because, like I had said earlier, I think that number 11 is symbolic of the two witnesses. And when I saw that, I thought to myself, this must have something to do with the two witnesses. And so I'm going to try to read the matrix really quick. I know I don't have much time, but I'll try to quickly read it. It says, "And the people were as murmurers, speaking evil in the ears of Jehovah. And when Jehovah heard it, his anger was kindled, and the fire of Jehovah burnt among them, and devoured in the uttermost part of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses, and Moses prayed unto Jehovah, and the fire abated. And the name of that place was Taberah, because the fire of Jehovah burnt among them. And the mixed multitude that was among them lusted exceedingly, and the children of Israel also wept again, and said, Who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish which we did eat in Egypt for naught, the cucumbers, and the melons, and the leeks, and the onions, and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all save this manna to look upon. And the manna was the coriander seed, and the appearance thereof as the appearance of bdellium. The people went about and gathered it, and ground it in mills, and beat it in mortars, and boiled it in pots, and made cakes of it, and the taste of it was as the taste of fresh oil. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it, and Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families, every man at the door of his tent, and the anger of Jehovah was kindled greatly, and Moses was displeased. And Moses said unto Jehovah, Wherefore hast thou dealt ill with thy servant, and wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? And what I thought was interesting immediately was when I saw the term fresh oil, which I've talked about before, how the two witnesses in Romans 11, how they both partake of the root and the fatness of the olive tree, which would be the fresh oil or the shining oil. And this is actually a different word than the one that's used in Zechariah 4:11, but it's nevertheless, it has the same meaning. And I'll go ahead and pull this up in the Blue Letter Bible so you can see it. And that was in, let's see, Numbers 11. Okay, and that was in verse 8, which is right here, where it talks about the fresh oil. And you see that word right here in the Hebrew. And as you can see, it's translated as fat or fatness. And remember, Romans 11 talks about the fatness that both the Jews and the Gentiles partake of, the root and the fatness of the olive tree, which is right here in Romans 11:17, where it says, And if some of the branches be broken off, and thou being a wild olive tree wert graft in among them, and with them partakest of the root and the fatness of the olive tree, which is the fresh oil, the fresh and shining oil. So it did, in fact, have something to do with the two witnesses, I believe, just by the fact that it mentioned that. And it also mentions the manna, which, of course, the manna refers to the Exodus, which is how God fed the Israelites in the wilderness during the time in the wilderness, which relates to the tribulation in the last days. And I'm, again, running out of time, and this is taking really long, so I'm just going to take a pause after this one and get back to this perhaps later in the day. So thank you all so much for watching these videos, and I'll continue with these Pentecost tables in the next video. Thank you.